We just got some really good news for the future of Star Wars games and the future of EA's games, if we're being real specific here. The other day, EA came out and said they are giving full control of their games to the studios. But you might be like, isn't that how things are supposed to be? Well, not entirely. A lot of what happens in the gaming industry is unfortunately controlled by publishers. EA being the publishers and studios like DICE and Respawn being the developers. And alongside this, EA have also said that they are taking a huge step towards listening to fans and listening to the players, and they've showed us some examples of how they've done so. And it's good news. It seems like this statement is going to have a huge impact on EA's future Star Wars games. So let's go digging a little deeper. So, all this information comes from an interview published by IGN with Laura Miele, EA's Chief Studios Officer. So, she's basically in charge of communicating between studios and assessing community feedback and what the studios should be doing differently, the direction they take. And it seems like she played a huge role in Battlefront 2's comeback, and also the direction a few other games have taken, whether the games are getting developed or not, greenlights things, a lot of power. But she was one of the executives giving DICE the green light to fix Battlefront 2. So, Laura Miele said, "When I first took this studio's leadership role, players were incredibly unhappy with this game." Battlefront 2, she's talking about. "We'd made commitments to deliver content to the community, but we didn't have team members assigned to deliver on these promises. So we quickly pulled together a great team of people from our studios in Vancouver, Montreal, and Stockholm to immediately get to work on fulfilling our promises. We created free content for players because it was the right thing to do, and I felt we owed it to our community of players." And that's exactly what happened with Battlefront 2. Everyone in gaming now knows, everyone who plays games knows the redemption arc Battlefront 2 has had. It's come back from the dead. So few players just after launch, and then the resurgence of the Clone Wars and all the content that followed. Very exciting stuff. In what I'm going to say was a gigantic glorified PR move by EA. The money they would have been earning off of Battlefront 2 at that point would have been insignificant next to the amount of dev time actually put into making the game following launch and continuing with the updates. Just remember, after launch, they removed microtransactions, and it wasn't until The Rise of Skywalker that they reintroduced the Celebration Edition, where you could purchase all of the cosmetic items in the game. And up until that point, apart from the probably drip feed of sales they were getting at the time, the game wasn't monetized. EA were earning next to nothing on Battlefront 2. You'd think. I would think anyway. The main reasons they decided to actually continue support and create the game that players wanted with all future updates was to show that they do listen to players and give players what they wanted and try and change the public perception of EA. We didn't expect any accolades or pats on the back for this work, but we actually saw a significant sentiment turnaround from players, and the game was re-reviewed at much higher scores. Players still love to play Battlefront 2, and I feel we are moving past its history. To hear fan feedback and see players loving this game is deeply gratifying. A new era was born. What a resurgence it had. Hey everyone, it's Andrew, and this isn't the only thing that has me excited. Like I said, EA are giving full control of their games to the studios, and an example of this, she points out, is Titanfall. The Titanfall games are possibly some of the best, most underappreciated first-person shooter story-based games developed in the past decade. But recently, the developers at Respawn have been much more focused on Apex Legends. So, as far as we know, haven't been working on anything Titanfall related, even though Apex is set in the same universe as Titanfall. But according to Miele, Respawn is fully in control of what happens to the franchise in the future, and Respawn are able to make their own decisions based on what players want. So here she's basically saying Respawn have every right to want to make Titanfall if they choose to do so, and EA will support them in that decision, which is very exciting to hear, seeing as though Respawn are also developing the next Jedi Fallen Order game, and hopefully something else Star Wars related. Who knows, down the track we could be seeing this. I said the other day I feel like they'd be the perfect studio to work on a Republic Commando style game. Republic Commando Commando 2, a sequel, Imperial Commandos, whatever that is. Star Wars Imperial Commando was the Republic Commando sequel cancelled by LucasArts way back in 2004 before Republic Commando had even come out, but with the game relaunching on PS4 and the Nintendo Switch in April this year, there's a bit of buzz around it, and it could be a great time to start thinking about making another one of these. But what does this all mean? Are EA for real when they say they're listening to players and giving control to the developers? Well, ultimately, EA does have the final say on decisions regarding what games get made or updated or ended. They are running a business after all. It's a company. But this could mean another new Star Wars game, like say Battlefront 3, could be releasing sometime in the next few years. Okay, but that's a very, very loose statement, isn't it? There's no real facts or news about a new EA Star Wars game to back this up. There's no Battlefront 3 in development that we know of anyway. But I think the message we can take away from this is that a Battlefront 3 or another Star Wars game could be in DICE's hands after they're done with Battlefield 6. If EA are true in saying that they're giving the developers control over what they make, what they think is right for the community, you'd have to think DICE would love to make another Star Wars game. All the developers expressed that. You could tell there was such a general disappointment following Battlefront 2's cancellation. And some other interesting news that could support this theory is that EA just announced that their studio Criterion are now assisting DICE with the development of Battlefield 6 to try and lighten the load. They came out and said they wanted to further support the studio, they needed some extra help with building the game, and they obviously don't want a repeat of what happened with Battlefield 5, the game lacking content at launch, being a bit broken in ways. Remember, these styles of games, these massive multiplayer shooters, are huge games to build with all the maps and the matchmaking and characterization, everything that goes into them, the mechanics. So they're getting some extra support. Criterion are known for their vehicle games. They make the Need for Speed games. They developed Starfighter Assault for Battlefront 2, along with most of the vehicles in the game. But could this also mean that some of the DICE developers are actually being taken off Battlefield to work on another Star Wars game? Are they getting the extra support from Criterion to free up some space at DICE to start working on a new Star Wars game? Highly speculative, especially seeing as though it's not even clear whether DICE will be making another Star Wars game ever. Battlefront 2's cancellation felt like an ending in a lot of ways. A lot of people seem to move on. Dennis Brandvols left the company. He was the director, the game lead on Battlefront 2, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I thought it was interesting, Millet also went on to talk about Skate 4, which has been one of the most requested video games in history, I think. Everyone has been wanting Skate 4 since Skate 3 came out like over 10 years ago. The new studio that's working on this game is called Full Circle, and EA named it this because they wanted players' experience with EA to come full circle from listening to community feedback and integrating it into their games. They want to give off that image. Millet went on to say, with Skate, for example, we knew that every time we posted on Instagram that the first comment, no matter what we posted, would be #Skate4. This is definitely true. So many Skate 4 memes and videos out there. But we only want to revisit a series if we're confident we can build an experience that moves the franchise forward in a contemporary way. One of the things I did in the first 100 days of my role as head of studios was spend time with our community leaders for some of our biggest franchises. I asked them to give their best advice on how we can have a better connection to our players. The biggest theme was, please listen to us about the content players are asking for, which resulted in us greenlighting Skate, College Football, Command & Conquer, and additional content for Battlefront 2. All of this came from community feedback. EA are listening to the developers, they're listening to the fans, and they want to make the games that we want to play. Obviously, sometimes that isn't possible. She also talked a bit about Anthem. If you haven't heard the news recently, Anthem 2.0, which was going to kind of restructure and create the Anthem that fans of that series wanted, has been cancelled. BioWare instead are going to be focused on their other titles in Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Star Wars The Old Republic. And EA made that decision clear, saying, obviously it's not the decision we want to make, and we know Anthem has a strong fan base, but the resources at BioWare would be better used going towards their other titles. To me though, this still says they're listening to community feedback, and unfortunately EA do have a bit of a short history of cancelling Star Wars games. There's been at least 4 or 5 within the past 8 or so years since they've had the license that have have been cancelled. Probably the most prominent one was the one worked on by Amy Hennig, who worked heavily on the Uncharted series. It was going to be an Uncharted-style Star Wars game. But ultimately, everything is about balance. EA will step in and make decisions as needed. Developers are given agency to make things they want to make, and players, hopefully, eventually feel like their needs and wants are met. She went on to say, it's about working to understand what a player's motivations are and working to meet those, while at the same time recognizing our game teams are tremendously talented at their craft and will determine where the story and game go. Even if this article is just a PR move and they're just coming out and trying to improve EA's image, I think it's a really good move. I think they're trying to show people that yes, they do listen. They have listened in terms of Battlefront 2's development. Skate 4 is a huge one, saying that Respawn have control over whether they make Titanfall games or Apex Legends, whatever they want to do. The developers are in control to a degree, and that's how games should be made. It's exciting because the developers are, of course, going to make the games the players want to see. Now, I'm going to link the article down below if you'd like to take a look. Definitely worth reading if you're interested in learning more about EA's newfound attitude for making games, and I'd love to know if you think this is good news for the future of Star Wars games. Are we going to see more games and more changes following these statements? And which EA studios do you want working on new Star Wars games? What are your favorites? What games do you want to see made? You can watch more on the latest in Star Wars gaming news here, and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord for lots more Star Wars news as soon as it happens, and everything else. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.